Can you tell just by looking at me that I am a felon? For most of you, the answer is no, because you're only relying on what you can see with your eyes. But behind what we can visually see is a story. In 2011, my best friend overdosed on heroin and died in my father's basement. About 7 months later, I was arrested in connection with his death because I was a passenger in the vehicle when he purchased the drugs. I spent about 4 months in county jail awaiting a bond reduction hearing, and during that time, I witnessed many injustices. We were locked down for days because of understaffing. Dental care amounted to the pulling of teeth, and many of the women that I was incarcerated with had been in jail for almost a year because their public defender just couldn't devote enough time to their case. It was these injustices, along with what occurred in the courtroom during my case, that solidified my commitment to American prison reform. I started to research prison systems, and over time, I realized that not all countries follow the same model. I just returned from field research in Norway and Finland, where I had the pleasure of touring some of their prisons, which, by the way, I never thought would come out of my mouth. But what I learned opened both my mind and my eyes to a multitude of possibilities. There are two big differences between the Nordic system and the American way of doing things, and those are the principle of normality and the role of the prison guard. So we'll start with the principle of normality. Since most inmates are going to be re-entering society at some point in time, they set the prisons up to be as much like the outside world as humanly possible. Behind me, Halden Maximum Security Prison, they don't have any bars on their doors. Each living unit has a common living space and a kitchen, and each of the rooms, or cells, looks more like a dorm room with its own window, a desk, and its own bathroom. Also, each of the inmates retains the civil rights that they entered with, and these civil rights include the right to education, health care, and voting. Secondly, the role of the prison guard. In Norway, a prison guard is called a contact officer, and each contact officer is assigned 2 to 3 inmates that they are personally responsible for, kind of like a social worker. But Jenny, how do they dispel violence, you may ask? Well, they do it through prevention. And how do they do that? Well, they do it through communication. Yes, you heard me correctly. They actually talk to the inmates as if they're human beings. Novel concept, don't you think? When you have a close relationship with another person, you can tell when their emotions are running a little high, or if they maybe just need to chill out for a little bit. You can talk to them before anything explosive happens. Interestingly, Halden Maximum Security Prison does have a restraint bed, but in the 8 years this prison has been in operation, they haven't had to use it one time, all because of communication. It is time for us to open our eyes to the fact that we have to reform our prison systems. It is completely unacceptable for a country as well-developed and supposedly progressive as the United States of America to have a prison system that is so grossly abusive and ineffective. As long as we continue our punitive approach to prison, we will continue to churn out toxicity. It is just as simple as that. It's time for a change. It's time for us to come to our senses. Thank you.